Good morning, Robert. Hope you're well. If you are on Zoom, just as a trial today, I'm going to see if it's a worthwhile addition to the YouTube. So I've put the meeting number up there, and I've also put the password up there as well. So 838-7305 5108. Yeah, got that right. And O small c XW1. Good morning, folks. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Carol. Hope you're both okay. Now I'm trialing Zoom, which is the sort of the mass meeting. Platform, and it doesn't matter if you're not on Zoom yet, because it's all good. Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Mel. Hope you're both okay. It doesn't matter if you're not online with Zoom at all. It's just an addition to what we're trialing. Someone's trying to get in now. Hi, Robert. Hi, Robert. Okay. So what I'm asking is, if you do want to Zoom, come in on Zoom as well, it's just so I can trial it, and then we can see if it's worthwhile having it alongside the YouTube videos as well. So it's just turned 9 o'clock. It's 9:02. Morning, Simon. I was just saying, Simon, I've got the details up there for the Zoom trial. I'm going to do a demonstration or a demo of Zoom today, or trial of Zoom. So the meeting number's at the top there, and the password's just underneath. Robert Wolf's online already. So I'll give it a few more minutes. Good morning, Helen. How are you? Late on the tea this morning. Ooh, 3 minutes past. Not like you. I'll forgive you. Just saying, Helen, what I'm doing, I'm trialing Zoom today alongside, which is the mass participation platform. So don't worry if you've not got it or you don't want to do. I know you actually do have it already, so it's just to go alongside. Just see what you think. So gallery view.
I think the Zoom's working, Richard.
Great. I can hear you now, Sam. Yeah, thank you. In fact, I might have Robert on mute, or I might have himself on mute. Okay, yeah. Now, when you do the Zoom things, is it best that you're all on mute, and then when you want to talk, we sort of open it up? Okay, great stuff.
Well, the other way is we mute our mics on the YouTube, the sound on the YouTube. So we talk. So Richard talks on the YouTube, and we talk on the Zoom.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah. Okay, so I just mute all you, don't I?
No, you let us talk on the YouTube, on the Zoom.
Yeah.
And we hear you talk on the YouTube channel. Because we can't talk to you on the YouTube channel.
No.
We can just hear you.
Hi, Brian.
See what I mean?
Yeah. But what we're doing, I don't sort of. Let me try and work out how this works out throughout the session. Like I said, it's going to be a demo today, so that should be enough.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to mute you so I don't get any sort of disturbance. Mute audio. All righty. Okay, well, what time is it now? I'm just saying hi, Brian. Hi, George. I'm doing a trial run of doing a Zoom alongside the YouTube platform, just to see if it's worthwhile. So when we do get into a Q&A later on, it might be something which we do anyway. So I'm just going to try to trial both of them here. So a very good morning to all of you. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all keeping fit and healthy and doing some golf exercises in the meantime. I've got stats and the swing and how the swing relates to those Trackman numbers. So we can have a look at what the details are of people's swings. I've chosen Rory Mcilroy. He's the world number one, but his stats on the tour are actually quite alarming. They're quite interesting. And so we're going to go through those in quite some detail today. I've got them all up here now. We're going to go through his swing and talk about what his variables are, what his negotiables are, and what his absolutes are. And really, the absolutes in his swing are as good as it gets anyway. But the stats are really quite revealing. All right, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just get up a picture of a sequence here. I'm going to put it up on the YouTube screen for everyone to see. Now, if you are a regular watcher of golf, that's a very familiar swing to us. It is one of the great swings, so powerful. And for a man of his size, he absolutely punches way beyond his weight. A huge hit of the golf ball, fabulous player, blah, blah, blah. And if he wins the Masters, then he's got the Grand Slam all sorted out. Now, the big position to look at here is his head. Now, let me just zoom in to what we see from this angle here. Looks pretty normal. We can see the side of his face, see his cap is pointed down to the target. What we see at impact is quite a different position. He's really tilted his head to the side. Okay, so if I go back to the picture as it was before, I just want to look at his head, forget everything else, I beg your pardon, but look at that shift in his head movement. It's quite dramatic, isn't it? So if you look at the picture of the dress, we don't see much of his neck. When he's hitting the ball, we see a huge amount of his neck to the top of his chest plate there. So what's that telling us there? Okay, so when I address the golf ball, first of all, and this is where we start talking about this left hip position I've been talking about each week, and also about the movement of the ball position in the stance. When I address a golf ball, set the screen down here a bit. You hear me talk an awful lot about the lever, left arm, all the way down to the top of the club head there. And that long lever is the most powerful part of the golf swing. It's supported by lots of other movements, but we use everything in the swing to make that lever, that set of levers there, create all the energy in the swing. From this side here, that lever moves around the body, and then we want to maximize the power as we swing into the ball. So when I set myself up here, and the butt of the club in the left hip socket, I don't want to lean vertically, or stand vertically, I beg your pardon. I certainly don't lean forwards. There's a tilt backwards here. Now you see as I'm doing that tilting backwards, my spine and my head remain aligned. Your head is, let's say, 1/8 of your overall body weight. If it tilts at address the wrong way, it will have an impact on the spinal angle and the body and the balance. So when we set up here, for the most part, the tour professionals will stand and tilt backwards from this position here and set themselves up to the ball. Now, McIlroy's head, as we see here, starts there absolutely aligned with his spine, but it really tilts, like I say. So if he's setting himself up in a position like this, he's behind the ball with the driver, or with that iron shot there, he's sort of over the ball, and then he returns the ball and he has a massive tilt in the head, then why is that? It's because he hits the ball so much from the inside. And so McIlroy's tilt in his head either creates the inside movement or it's created by the inside movement. I don't know which it is. Now, I was lucky enough to be on a driving range with him last year, watching him swing, and it's super noticeable. This is something which, as an amateur golfer, you would look at a range and wow, you can really see lots of head motion there. When you get up close to him, his head motion is quite revealing, quite startling as well. So what he's doing there is when he's swinging, as he returns the ball, his head gets into this position here, which aligns his eyes to there, and that creates that inside hit. So either it's the cause or the effect. Either way, it all goes into the same pot. So if we then go to this picture here, these are now McIlroy's stats. So he posted this on Twitter last year. Okay, so he swung the club at a mere 123.8 miles an hour. Now you can see when I'm in here, I'm sort of straining my hardest to show off and get to about 105, 106, 107, 108, that sort of range. His ball speed then 184 miles an hour. Now remember, ball speed relates to everything, but most importantly, quality of strike. If you swung that club at 184 miles, swung the club at 123 miles an hour, but struck it off the periphery of the club, his ball will fly away from the ball much slower. And when we look at the slow motion swings of players striking the ball, the best players, when they hit it, will strike it and the club won't wobble at all. A handicap golfer, the club sort of wobbles out of position. And of course, that sends the ball off target. So as we look at McIlroy's numbers there, his ball speed's very high. His attack angle is plus 3.1. So let's relate that back to his head position here. That would be 0, 0. That's 3.1. So McIlroy's swing, as he's coming down to the swing here, and he has his neck and head pulled back here, that must have some impact on getting you on the 3.1 inside path here. Now, I know that when I've read other stats of McIlroy's, I can't find them today, but our rep for Trackman is a tour rep, and he comes to tell us and he shows us all the Trackman reps. So he'll spend the morning with the world's best players when they're at Wentworth, then come and spend time with us the following day to talk to us about their stats and what have you. And he's doing the training for us. And he says McIlroy gets up to about 5 degrees of inside path. Now, the stats he posted last year, beg your pardon, he's at plus 3.1 from the inside there. Now, this is when we start getting into what I talked about last time, about how we balance that with getting the ball to finish on target. It won't fly in a straight line. So if the club is attacking the ball from 3.1 on the inside, and the club face is aligned to that, then surely that ball will fly absolutely right at target by 3.1 degrees. And so in McIlroy's case there, his path is 3.1 coming down the inside here, but his club face is closed by 1.4 degrees to that path. So it's not square to the path, it's closed, and that's what makes his ball big high draw, which he's very, very famous for. So if I then get out of that, so let me get my notes up 1 second here. Now, what also happens, believe it or not, is they're not always trying to find a centered strike. Now I'm showing you here, that's the bulge of a golf club. And that's the bulge, I beg your pardon, going that way. And that curve there is the roll. Now, so finely tuned are their strikes that they don't always try and hit from the center of the club face, because that will put the least amount of bend on the ball for them. Remember what we talked about last time with the Tiger Woods video? He wants to open the face to hit a draw. And that is why, if the face here bulges that way, then it's more open at the toe, and that's why toe strikes will tend to have a bit more hook. So McIlroy will try and hit his drives high off the face and towards the toe, just to encourage a bit more hook on the ball. He's trying to optimize and squeeze every last inch, not foot, but inch out of every strike he hits. And the level they're playing at, every single inch counts, every yard counts. So what he's doing there, when he wants to neutralize the amount of hook he has, he actually moves the ball and strikes it more off the heel of the club here. Now, when we talk about heel and toe strikes between us, it's sort of that sort of range. His range is going to be within a few millimeters all the time, but they know that range. And when they sort of do the Trackman analysis, which doesn't show up very well on the indoor room, it's better outside. The Trackman analysis of how many millimeters above the sweet spot or left and right of the sweet spot, they're hovering within 3 or 4 millimeters each time of the optimum strike. Now, the optimum strike varies because the shape they're trying to hit, the shape of the hole they're playing. We're going to get talking about the stats later on, but it's very interesting to listen to the stats of the Tour Pros because there's only 2 Trackmans on each 9 when they go to the Tour events. There's 2 on the front 9, 2 on the back 9, 4, I beg your pardon, in total. And they're on holes which the players might not always hit a driver off. Now, of course, they're selected to make sure the most amount of pros would hit a drive on a long par 4, long par 5 with a bit of space on it, but not always. And so the work I do with the long driving coach, when he's talking to me and teaching me about how the stats are worked, he said it can be a bit misleading. You don't know the shot the player's trying to hit, nor do you know the quality of the shot the player's trying to hit, which then gets into the debate about, what is a long hitter? Now, let me show you here. I did some checks on the stats this morning. So Nick Watney is the longest driver in the world right now, measured on how many times he hits the ball between 300 and 320 yards. And he hits it 51% of the time. And that's huge. Just think, the quality of that strike and the consistency and efficiency of that swing is absolutely massive. So Nick Watney hits 51% of his drives over 300 yards, between 300 and 320. As an aside here, I then started looking at the greens and regulation percentage. Now look at this here. Top 1, Jim Furyk. He hits 76% of his greens in regulation. So green in regulation is a par 3 hitting 1, a par 4 hitting 2, or a par 5 hitting 3 strokes. Now Furyk swings and hits 73/4 of the time, 76%. Now you think of that swing, we talked about it before, just how quirky it is as he gets right up here. He then brings the club in here, gets very, very close to his body, and he hits the ball. He's almost walking after it in this position here. Now, Furyk's swing is a very, very extreme version of what most professionals do anyway. They typically lift the club up and return the right forearm and then extend out here, but they don't start in that position. They don't swing from that position. They swing from here and remove to here. And I'll talk about that later on when I get into a bit of analysis about McIlroy's swing. So a very obvious and logical question is, why don't we just start the swing from the top here? Remove the fuss about setup and just get ourselves in a hitting position here and just try and sort of settle ourselves. We could easily find a perfect plane because we could have a look at it. We could double check if our right hip's out of the way, right leg straight. And say, okay, well, I'm in that position now. Surely I can just start here and hit from here. But it's been proven time and time again, the loss of momentum is massive. You lose about 20% of the momentum. It's like a throw. We just swing back to create the energy. We get some loving momentum in the arm and then release on the way through. And this is where it's very important for us as instructors and for you as, I didn't mean to point, I beg your pardon, for you as students of the game. We're all students of the game. Butch Harmon taught me that phrase. He said, we're all students of the game. I had a week with Butch Harmon just after he'd split with Tiger Woods. And so 12 professionals were picked by the PGA to have a week with him and his 3 brothers. And it was amazing. I mean, at the height of his coaching powers and his coaching fame. And he'd just finished teaching Tiger. And so we met him for breakfast. We had breakfast, lunch and dinner for 5 days with them. And he said, I'm not talking about Tiger. Refused to talk about Tiger. And after about 3 or 4 days, after 2 or 3 days, he eventually softened to talk about Tiger. And fascinating stuff. How did I get to that? Why did I get to that story there? How did I start talking about Butch Harmon? That'll come back to me. I've lost my thread there now. What was I talking about? Can you help me out there, Sam? What was I talking about? What was I talking about there with Butch Harmon? How did I get onto that?
Momentum at the top.
Momentum at the top. Okay, I'm going to mute you again, Sam. Thank you. Anyway.
Momentum at the top.
Momentum at the top. Oh, that's right. Momentum. So anyway, so then he started telling us about how Tiger trained. And he said what Tiger did, Tiger would set himself up, and Tiger would stand outside the range in the Arizona heat, and he'd set himself up, and he'd hit a drive like this. And he'd pop the drive 30 or 40 yards. Now, it said, Butch Harmon said it was so difficult and it was so hard to watch this perfect swing over and over again, analyze it. But Tiger Woods worked on slow motion in the swings, because what he was doing there was getting himself into a perfect set of positions and then swinging through. And Tiger's view was that he could train himself to swing slowly, because anybody can swing quickly. Anybody can swing and just thrash away at the ball. Now, the point about the momentum thing, which is what I was saying to you, but the whole point is that we have to be very cautious about understanding the difference between positions and momentum and movement. In this position here, where we say McIlroy's got his head in this position here, it's only for a very brief amount of time before he makes a movement through. So we shouldn't try and get ourselves into a position where we tilt here during the swing. It should happen naturally. So as I'm swinging here, I don't sort of falsify a position and throw myself in here. And so what I meant to say about the Butch Harmon thing was he taught us that we're all students of the game. So when Tiger and him had split up, he said, I expected at some stage, he's a student of the game, he wants to get better. Now I use this phrase an awful lot, we're all students of the game. Now, when we're studying stuff, the point of what I forgot about my thread a moment ago, was that motion and positions are two very different things. So when I keep harping on about this inside position here, it's very tempting to think, why don't I just swing from here? Surely, if that's the hitting position, I can make the movement here. But the golf swing is very complicated, and we need to make a motion up here to create as much space and power as we can to put ourselves into the best and most powerful hitting position. So positions of motion, we have to be very careful of. And oftentimes when I'm showing people a position in their swing, I'll say, look, here's what the world's best players do. Don't forget it's only 1/10 of a second or whatever it is here. Let's try and make that position there, part of your overall motion. The golf swing is only 1.5 seconds long, right? So I then talked about greens and regulation, the percentage. Furyk hits 76% of the greens in regulation, which is remarkable. And then look here, from 150 to 175 yards, he's actually even better. He's in 87.93% of those greens. Now, if there's ever a lesson for us all on finding the best way for you to swing and for us to swing, it's Jim Furyk, because his swing position is so quirky looking. Now, if I then say about what the tour professionals do, they all have a theme to their swings. The overwhelming majority will have the club higher here than the plane they return on. Because the plane they return on is the optimum power plane. Remember I talked about this 2 sessions ago, where there's around about a 9-inch spread on the line or the path the pros swing back on, but the return line is only a 3-inch spread, very tiny. They've worked it out through Trackman, also through just Mother Nature and hitting balls, that the optimal line to swing on is the optimal line to swing on. It doesn't have any variable positions. You will not see very good players swing the club from here to hit the ball and not from here to hit the ball. Sometimes they may swing a little on the inside, McIlroy particularly, and have a 4, 5, or 6 degree path into the ball. And it's what Tiger Woods described as getting stuck. When he swung so aggressively and the club got behind him too much, he said, I feel like I'm getting stuck. And Tiger has lots of little quirky phrases that he uses, one of which is double cross the ball. That's when the ball goes left-left. And the very famous scene at the, I think, 2005 Ryder Cup, where he swung into the ball, closed the club face far too much, and the ball went left-left. Now, remember when we talked the other week about how he hits a fade? He closes the face a little bit to get a bit of a fade on the ball. Counterintuitive, I know. But when he closes it too much, it stops being a fade and it becomes that pull left into the water. It's the Ryder Cup in Ireland. I think it's about 2005. And you just watch it and you can see he's nervous. You know, you can see his breathing's going. He hits the ball. He knows instantly it's left, and he pops it into the pond on the left-hand side there. So let's have another look back now at McIlroy's swing. And we're going into a bit of detail now about a Tour Pro swing, because this is just about as good as it gets. Alrighty, so here he is, the great man, the world number one at the moment. And I'm going to show you his stats very shortly, and that's really quite startling. Now, if I zoom in now on that there, look at that ball position. Now, I don't think that's bang in the centre of the club. I'd say that's a millimetre or two towards the toe end of the club. And that tells us there the sort of shot he's likely to be hitting there. That's definitely not bang in the middle, is it? So, as good as it gets as a posture, that spinal angle there is unrealistic for most amateur golfers. It's just far too athletic and strong. You need so much power in the back. And if you look at how Justin Rose walks, lots of the tour pros walk, they have very, very straight spines here now. And what they're doing is they're building up these muscles on their back here, pulling their shoulders back, and they're trying to control the range of their shoulders. Your shoulders have the biggest amount of range in your body. They can go absolutely everywhere, huge spread and range around there. If that's too loose, there's not enough strength in the swing gets sloppy. And so when they bulk themselves up, and if you look at pictures of McIlroy as a teenager, sort of podgy kid, fit for golf, but just wasn't particularly athletic. He's now an absolute supreme athlete for his sport, very heavy into the weights and what have you. And that strong spinal angle there is a false position for us. And again, that's what I was talking to you before about positions. It's very easy to get seduced by positions. Now, if I then, just to give us all some heart here, I think most of us are middle-aged watching my videos. If I then go to favorites here, just to show you that you don't need to be in that position. Here's Nicklaus, again an athlete for his profession, quite a bend in his back there. You wouldn't describe that as the same athletic square back position that McIlroy had. Let me get one more picture for you. And again, there's Tom Watson, one of the greats. So this strong sort of flat back position is quite a modern phenomenon, really, as the pros have worked out more and more and more. And I remember watching a clinic which Tom Watson gave at Livingston Tans as a kid, and watching his drive, absolutely flushing his ball, a beautiful, clean clip of a strike. The drives were going no more than 230, 240, and he was flushing them at the time there. So let's get back now to McIlroy's swing. Okay, so we've got his setup there. Now, here's the big money shot. Sets himself up. And if I go back one frame, we can see there his arms are quite straight. He hasn't tucked his right elbow in like I teach most of you to do. But halfway back, his right elbow is definitely pulled inside. But look at the club face. You can see there it's pointing what most people think is quite close, pointing down towards the ball still. So what's he done there? That position is a very famous photograph of McIlroy. He's pulled himself on the inside because we can see his right elbow's come inside now. His left elbow is proud, but he's kept the club face outside his hands. He hasn't whipped the club inside. Now, when I'm coaching most of you, I would never dream of trying to get you into that position there because it's so blooming hard. I don't really care. And again, as a coach, I have to have my variables and my sort of negotiables with you. I know you're only playing once a week at most, and then Simon, a good friend of mine now, taught Simon for a long time. He's around the world 5 days a week. So by the time he comes to a golf lesson on a Saturday morning, I'm trying my hardest to try and make it work for him as an amateur golfer. So I wouldn't particularly be sort of getting fussed about that position there, because I know 3 or 4 frames later, Simon's going to be on the inside here. So what McIlroy's doing there with the club face, he's ensuring it's going to stay square to the ball for as long as possible. And this is a proof positive what I was saying to you last time. That's a square club face there. And if the golf swing was horizontal, then that would be a square club face. But because the golf swing is on a plane, that is now a square face. And the pros at the halfway back position have the club face square to their spinal angle. That would be open, and hence that would be a big old slice. That's now square. So as he goes back, club face stays square to his spinal angle. Because when we tilt forwards in a golf swing, the club face has to work in harmony with that. And we see that very much in the next photo here. His right elbow now is starting to collapse and fall behind him. The whole right side of his body is going behind him. Again, in sequence. We now start seeing the club shaft run through his right forearm because we know that's the position there. And then top of the backswing, his right side is all the way behind him. Now, if you're going to try and explain golf to a Martian, then why on earth would he come over the top of that ball? Why on earth would he hit and swing the club across the ball? It's on line there on a plane. And this is what I keep talking about, the plane of the swing. If we tilt forwards here, then that is the plane that our shoulders will swing on. And if I'm here, the symmetry of the swing means that I should just swing down on this plane and hit the ball from the inside. The minute I go here and I get into the classic amateur fault of doing this, it means my body's now out of position. And that relates back now to what my head does in the McIlroy interpretation, is his head swings slightly this way. And that means he comes a bit more on the inside, and we'll see that shortly on the pictures there. The classic amateur fault are coming over the top of the ball. My head goes the opposite way, this way. And so the head position is super vital in a golf swing. We align it with the spine, and then during the swing, it should stay aligned with the spine or even tilt slightly that way to help us hit up on the ball and from the inside. So, when I talk about a supreme athlete, that position there, club's still way behind him, but look at his right foot coming off the ground to force the power forwards now. Remember, it's a very, very powerful and violent swing with the ball. But interestingly, look at his right forearm. It looks really trapped there. If I just sort of zoom in on it, you can see it all looks quite gummed up, doesn't it? And that's the principal reason why most amateur golfers slice, is because that for that very brief moment in time, that right elbow is really trapped in here. But most amateur golfers think, well, I want a bit of space. I'll throw the club over. I want to get some room in my swing. But you get room at the wrong point. The pros have very little room at that point because they're trying to get all the power snapped to the bottom where they want the room. So as he comes down here and his right elbow is tucked in there, again, it's a position in a momentum or in a motion. So we don't spend too much time getting fussed about that, but it's something which I would definitely look at, because I know if you've got that right elbow loosely tucked in there, your club shaft is going to align with it. And that goes back to that famous photograph I keep showing. I'm going to show it again in a second, where we have the top 10 players in the world all running the shaft of the club through their right forearm. And that really is the magic hitting position. If there's anything which we should be teaching to everybody we can as golf professionals, it's absolutely that position there. So if we go back to the McIlroy position, he's in his hitting position there, just about to unload into the ball. And then what happens after that has always happened after that. From here, the right forearm and the shaft of the club will align. So from this angle here, this dimension, we talk a lot about dimensions in golf. It's very easy to look at this part of the swing here and think that is the swing, but of course there's 2 dimensions or 3 or 4 dimensions to a golf swing. But if a dimension to a lever is this dimension, that lever going up and down, I optimize power if that lever is aligned with my implement. If my lever is misaligned, I can't get the same power. And my physics teacher, Helen Sykes, will back me up on that. I did ask her a question last week about it. She confirmed it. And there's McIlroy zipping all the way through. And then we see how the club is fully extended. And when we talk about extension, it's really just a case of like the hammer thrower, extending and releasing the hammer towards the target. Now, just to go back to another photograph of that happening. There's the great Jack Nicklaus, and you can see how the shaft of the club, and from this angle here, his glove arm are aligned. Because again, if we had an axe, we would align our levers and we would chop. We wouldn't misalign our levers. It's just not logical. And our job as golfers is to use what limited golf professionals is to use what limited understanding we have of physics and science and what have you, and apply it to the golf swing as best we can. Okay, so after that, on McIlroy's position, Big freewheeling follow through. And then that's a position which 99% of us will never get into, a full twist on the spine and the back there. So let's go back to his head position at impact. So we see the side of his face there. And look at the dramatic tilt in his head there. Everything's working together to get that ball on the inside. And now we see a huge tilt. That head is no longer aligned with his spine. So the year to date, he's not played many tournaments this year for obvious reasons, but they still play pretty frequently. If we then look at McIlroy's stats, he is the #1 player in the world. Now, the #1 player in the world is not based on just this season. It goes back over several events. Driving distance, 320 yards. Now, I'm just going to tilt it so I can read it better now. So he's the second most consistent driver in the world. His driving accuracy is 56.3. Driving accuracy, 56.3. So he's only hitting just over half his fairways. Greens in regulation, he's only hitting 71%. So he's missing 30% of those. Eagles, birdies, scoring average. Sand save, this is a really interesting one, 48%. Now think about that. Simon just typed in, I think I need a chiropractor if I twisted my spine like McIlroy. I actually want to make a point about that as well, Simon, today, because you sent me a great question about how to preserve the back in the golf swing. So McIlroy is only, his sand save percentage is 48%. I can tell you this now, right? If you can get the ball out of the bunker on the green and take 2 putts, then you will not be far off being one of the best bunker players in the club, and if not in the world, because the tour professionals don't knock it out of the bunker, knock it close and single putt all the time. McIlroy is only taking 1 bunker shot and 1 putt less than half the time. So he's taking 1 bunker shot followed by 2 putts 51% of the time, and 49% of the time he's taking 1 putt. So then we look at his total distance all right. Now, we're talking about his fairways hit, his greens hit. Okay, so he's played 307 greens hit out of 432. Can we see that there? 307 hit, 432 targets. And this goes back to the very famous Sam C. Snead story of an amateur golfer playing in a pro-am with Sam Snead, and he hits a shot. He says, I can't believe I'm terrible. He bangs the club on the ground. This happens 3 or 4 times. And Snead turns to him and says, who the hell do you think you are? He says, you're missing greens the same as I miss greens. You're one of the great players of all time. And you get angry with yourself. And this is how we talk about the self-management then. So when the players are swinging and hitting shots, they miss plenty of greens. So we can't get angry with ourselves. Now, it's the reason why most intelligent people are drawn to golf is because they can self-lacerate and expect better of themselves all the time. But you have to really manage that. Now, our job as golf professionals is to teach the technique, the task, and the self-management. And it works in that sequence. If your technique is understood and you know what you're capable of doing, what your absolutes are and what your variables are, if you then understand your task, where am I trying to find the ball on the fairway? Have I got the right club for the job here? Do I want a high shot, a low shot? Do I need to bend the ball left or what have you? Then you can work on your self-management. And your self-management is such a key part. And I've said this before, I wouldn't hire a caddy to talk to me the way I talk to me when I hit a bad shot. Effing I'm blind and smashing my club on the ground. It's just ridiculous. My expectation of myself are way beyond my ability. Who the hell do I think I am? And it's a big lesson there for all of us. Do I remember Trevino's chip in the bunker? No, it wasn't at Lytham. He didn't win at Lytham. He won at Troon and Muirfield, 71-72. Helen's just asking there, do you remember Trevino's chip in from the bunker? That destroyed Tony Jacqueline's belief in himself. He had a load of demons after that, did Jacqueline. But Trevino won his 2 US Opens first, his 2 Opens second, and his 2 US PGAs third. A lot of symmetry in Trevino's wins. Now, talking about Trevino's swing, very interestingly, and again, during his career, everyone thought, Trevino's got a weird swing. Now, all professionals absolutely adore what Trevino did because he took the club out, he pulled it in, got himself out of the way, and then pushed that club down the target. So Trevino was very, very famous for pushing himself all the way back during the swing here to give himself all that room to swing into. So the Fioric swing goes up and inside. The Trevino swing went out and inside. Because what we know is that pros will find momentum out here, but they find science down here. The science of the strike is this path here. Always has been, always will be. But to get to that position, a lot of them find quirky ways of doing it. Take this Robert Wolf. Gets himself to here, but then returns to here. They're all in the same hitting position on the way down. And the reason for that is we know the golf ball's there, we stand over here. The optimal line to attack it from is here. It doesn't matter how you arrive there. It's unlikely you'll find a pro doing it from here to here. They'll go out here, create lots of space and lots of width in the swing, and then return on this path here and smack in. And I posted a Recorder article last year for you where I showed a picture of Jim Barnes. And Jim Barnes was the second best English golfer of all time, who no one's ever heard of. He won 3 major championships. He didn't win the Masters because he was a period just before that. He won his majors 10, 15 years earlier, won the USPGA, US Open, and the Open Championship. And I can show you pictures of Jim Barnes' swing. It's no different to Brooks Koepka now. And he was swinging with a piece of hickory. So the swing shape hasn't changed an awful lot. It's just that we should have gotten better at how we coach it. And really should be very, very few deviations from that. Alrighty, so any questions? I'm going to just try the old Zoom first of all. So Simon and Robert can hear me. I think Robert's gone now. Hi Simon, any questions? So there's actually a delay between Zoom, so it might not work best for us. Deviations from that. Alrighty, so any questions? Let's try the old Zoom first of all. So Simon and Robert. This is just part of the demo, so just forgive me a bit of time here. Is there a delay, Simon, between the Zoom?
There's a bit of a time lag between the Zoom. The Zoom's live and the YouTube video is about sort of 8 to 9 seconds.
So it doesn't work together?
It's fine. I just kept the Zoom audio down and
okay.
listened to on the. I mean, it works really well.
Okay.
It all makes sense. It's just having the practice to do it. But that thing of working from the inside and keeping the right elbow in is really spot on.
It's absolutely key.
I just can't wait to get out on the course and practice it.
No, well, I hope you can people hear Simon on Zoom here? I'm sorry to sort of use this as a trial, but I thought it might be best to do it this way. Simon's on Zoom on my iPad here. I do feel like I'm putting man on the moon here. I've got my Trackman computer, I've got my Trackman screen, I'm talking to my MacBook, I've got my iPad here for reference, I've got my daughter's iPad for the Zoom, I've got like surrounded by tech.
Mission control.
Now, can people on Zoom, can people on YouTube hear Zoom? Yes, you can hear Simon. All right, I think what I might do then is what I think we'll do is I'll set up a Zoom account, a Zoom meeting for the next Saturday meeting. People can sign in and then we'll do a Q&A at the end where everyone can do a Q&A rather than interrupting the two things. I think that might work best for all of us. Would that be fine?
Perfect.
Great stuff. All righty. So I'm going to go back now to, we can hear Simon, thank you. I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to mute you now, Simon, thank you. Okay, so Mel Davis, when you, Richard Harrison, address the ball the driver, do you align the face noticeably open, square, or closed to the target line? I'm a hooker of the ball. I am as casual a golfer. I'm more of a casual golfer than you are in many ways because I play much less golf than you. And so my clubs will go away for the most part most of the winter, even though we have mild winters in the south here. I would probably play more if I played more up north, if I lived up north, to be honest with you. For some odd reason. But I play less golf over the winter time. I play 4 or 5 rounds between October and March. Spend my weekends coaching, Sundays I take off with my family, and then get back into my Captain Pro matches, which start in April. So I'll have a few rehearsal rounds here, and I'll have a few rehearsal rounds at other courses, just to get my eye back in. Now, because I am a casual golfer, even though I'm a professional, I have to work with my negotiables. Now, my negotiables are that I optimize my distance. And I posted a video this week, which I hope you've seen. I talk about the difference between a fade and a draw with the same club head speed. And I basically lose 25 yards when I try and fade the ball, and I have a 25-yard uplift on that when I play my draw spin. So I know through using Trackman that my distance optimizes when I point to the right at target and I get the ball to curve left. Mel's question is, how do I square my club face? I square my club face to me. So my club face pointing on target would be that. I point myself and my club face over there, and then I create a swing which will hook the ball to the left. Now, during my swing, my club face is closed relative to my path, and that's where my hook comes from. So as I swing down to the ball, I'm closing my face purposely to the relative to my path. I then know that if I do that, my ball will come back to target. And it's very important when we talk about the Tiger Woods thing that he was moving the club face by 1 degree at a time. For me, I don't have that skill level, obviously. And so I'm trying to hit the ball from the inside path by aiming right at target and swinging it and aligning with my right forearm, but I'm closing my club face relative to that path. And it revolutionized my driving. It absolutely has. I've played captain pro for 12 years here, and I've had some terrible times with the driver. But the past 2 years, I've hit it great. I drove the 12th twice this year, last year. The first couple of times, I had several legal chances on lots of the holes, just because I'm driving better. And I put that down to Trackman and the lessons that I've been taking. It's all about finding a person who can make it work for you. Alrighty, well, I've done a lot of chatting there, and I hope I've covered a lot of topics there for you. What I wanted to do today was actually align the Trackman data that we've been talking about, because it's great to have so many regulars coming in and tuning in for this. Because it means that when I do talk in the sessions, I can put some sequence into it. And so what I wanted to do today was get into the detail of not just the Trackman data, but what the Trackman data is created by, the movements in the swing of the world's best players, and how those movements, that Trackman data, then relate to the belly of the beast when they're out there making their scores. And it's well worth going onto the PGAtour.com to look at the professional stats, because it's fascinating. It's absolutely surprising how good or bad they are from certain angles, because certain distances, we think they're hitting the green all the time, fairways all the time. But don't forget, when we watch a tournament, you may have 120 of the world's best players. 60 make the cut, 60 go home on Friday night. And the 60 that go home on Friday night skew the stats to the badly. The top 15 that we're watching on telly is skewing the stats way better than the mass of the field, because they're holding all the putts, hitting all the greens, chipping in every now and then. So the stats obviously take 120 players over 2 days, then 60 players, or thereabouts, over 120 players over 120 players over 2 days, and then the final 2 days is just 60 players. And so the stats can be quite sort of easily misinterpreted if we're not careful. But they work them out over a season. It gives us a benchmark for there. So I would go into PGAtour.com and have a look at the player stats. Pick your favorite player and just see how good or bad they are from certain distances and certain shots. Alrighty, any more questions? And thank you for your patience regarding the Zoom thing. I think there's a way of using that, but I think it might be at the end of the session when we sort of get into a group Q&A. I'll share if we're doing Zoom next week. I'll shave if we're doing Zoom next week. Well, I have to shave every day to look into my computer screen here. Well, thanks again for your time. I do appreciate you tuning in. I do appreciate you spending time, just enjoying the club life here. Ellen Sykes says she won't shave for next week. And I look forward to seeing you all back here very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Any questions in the week, send me an email, and I look forward to seeing you there. Simon, if you can stay on Zoom, that'd be great. And I will speak to you all and see you all soon. God bless. All the best.